Hello, welcome to the Charles River Conservancy Parkland show. My name is Renata von Tscharner. I'm the president of the Charles River Conservancy. And every Wednesday at 5:30 every other week, it's my pleasure to talk about the river, the parklands, this wonderful publicly owned land by the Department of Conservation and Recreation we are so lucky to have in our front yard. And one of the reasons these parklands are so wonderful sits right next to me. Welcome, Logan.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Logan Walsh is the Charles River Conservancy's Volunteer Coordinator, and he oversees over 2,500, yes, 2,500 volunteers a year. That's a large number. So we want to hear a little bit more of how you make that happen. And these volunteers, you will see, they do different projects all year round. And the volunteer program is just one of the many programs of the Charles River Conservancy. You might have heard about our efforts to bring back swimming. You might have heard about our efforts to build a skateboarding park underneath the Zaken Bridge ramps. We have illuminated bridges. We organize games on Sunday. We have a program for active seniors walking along the river. So you can find all that on our website, thecharles.org. But now let's meet our special guest today, Logan Walsh, our volunteer coordinator. Logan, you are an English major, I understand,
Yep.
and then you have a degree in ecological leadership and teaching from Leslie,
That's correct.
right? Local, a wonderful school.
Yes.
And this seems to have been the perfect preparation for you to do what you do.
It really has, yeah.
So why don't you, I'm going to put a map on so our viewers see the wonderful river and the Cambridge shore. So why don't you give us an overview of what the Conservancy volunteers do?
Sure. So the Charles River Conservancy, as Renata said, really works to steward the Charles River parklands. And we work mainly from the Watertown Dam to the Museum of Science in Boston. We let the Esplanade Association handle the Esplanade, but other than that, it's the Conservancy Volunteer Program working in hand in hand with the DCR to do so many different volunteer projects. And I have a bunch of slides here today to show a bunch of those projects. So what we have here, this is the first picture, just to give you an idea. This is in Squibnocket Park in Watertown. This is the Conservancy Volunteer Truck. So if you ever see this truck out in the parklands, that's me driving it around, getting ready, either coming to or going to or coming from a volunteer event. And we always have tons of tools and water and everything we need for the day there. And
you have gloves.
Yes.
So here we are. We start the season with the winter. We are right here on Storrow Drive, or is that where we are?
Yes, this is right where Storrow Drive becomes Soldiers Field Road, just after the BU Bridge. And this is right kind of at the end of winter, beginning of spring, right as that time changes.
And a very important cleanup that happens every year around Earth Day.
Yes.
You oversaw some 500 volunteers out of the 3,000 that worked all along the Charles.
Definitely.
And I think the picture we are about to see is the after every beer cap, every cigarette butt has been picked up.
Exactly. And what's great about this picture is the previous photo was volunteers actually clearing some of the brush that was at this location that later on in the summertime will end up growing up and over this ramp there, this protective barrier for the bike path.
Yeah.
So when that grows, it ends up growing into the bike path, thus making the bike path maybe even a third smaller than what it is. So we removed those plants, and then people were able to go in there and get rid of the trash.
So how do people find you? How do they find out how they can volunteer with the Conservancy?
Sure. A lot of what we do is found online. So a lot of people will be on our website, and they will see that we have volunteer events coming up. A lot of corporations and school groups and community groups are very interested in getting back to the Charles River, so they're always looking for ways to organize their own work group and come out. And then definitely people, like I said, see our truck out there and they want to come out and
Yeah.
volunteer.
And the group here, that's a group that gathered a lot of leaves and bags, and they look very happy here. That
Yeah,
it's
this
probably-
is Novartis Vaccines. They're a local Cambridge company, and they're doing a springtime cleanup. I think people forget sometimes that maybe the Parklands, they're a perpetual work in progress. So every single spring, it needs to be cleaned up, and this is one of those yearly cleanups.
Yeah. And that's another group with gas filling bags
This
of
is Genzyme,
yeah.
and they're picking up trash right in front of the Genzyme building.
Yeah, I think it's nice when you work in a building and you can go, you step out of the building
Yes.
and right in front of your building you clean up and
Exactly.
Genzyme has become kind of a steward
They have, yeah.
of the parklands
Yes.
right in front of them, and
Yep.
and they come out in large numbers.
Yep, they come out multiple times a year, and they hold volunteer events at different times of day, so that different staff people in different work times can come out and volunteer.
Now a typical picture along the Charles with some rowers, and then in the background people cleaning up the shores. That's also Earth Day
This
again?
is also Earth Day, yes. So Earth Day goes from the Charles River Conservancy. We bring volunteers from the entire Cambridge side of the river, some of Watertown, and then some of Boston. So we do a large cleanup area.
Yeah, yeah. Now, so if somebody, an organization wants to volunteer, how do they work with you? How does that work?
Yeah, it's a pretty fun process. There's generally a lot of organizations have a volunteer committee. So there's a group of staff people that have been appointed or decided that they wanted to create a volunteer workday. Generally, one of them will then contact me, and we'll exchange a number of emails and phone calls. And what's fun about it is that we get to kind of, you get to know this person because you talk about their company. I talk about the conservancy. We talk about what fits best for their company, and
So they can pick a site and they can pick
Yeah.
a task. They can say what they would like to do.
definitely. I mean, some corporations or anyone, and even some nonprofit groups or school groups, they can walk to the river, so they want to be within walking distance. Some places are further away and they have to drive. Some organizations want to work on the weekends versus a weekday, a morning versus an afternoon. Some places hire their own buses to drive everyone to a site, so it's really dependent on who wants to come out and volunteer, what needs to get done, and where they want to be.
Yeah, well, there's a large choice of opportunities. Here is something of a very different nature than the pickup on Earth Day. What's happening here, Logan?
This was a group of volunteers created this was a smaller garden bed that had become overgrown. In the middle there you see some more mature rose bushes. So a group of volunteers came out and they expanded the garden bed. This is by the Weeks Footbridge in Cambridge, and planted some annual plants there. We actually planted some daffodil bulbs there last fall, so it's a very beautiful garden.
Yeah. Isn't that also the spot where, I think on the 1st of May, where people gather very early in the morning to welcome May? So if you are a person that loves to get up early, this is a very special celebration with Morris dancing, with the revels, with singing, with merrymaking, people in colorful skirts and hats. And I think that happens right there at
Yes.
the Cambridge site of the Weeks Bridge.
Yeah.
Very special event.
Yeah, it's a very unique section of Parkland. There's always something happening. Every warm month, every warm weekend, there's something happening there. So it's a very special place.
Yeah, on the Weeks Bridge is also where the tango by moonlight, the dancing on the Weeks Bridge takes place, and of course River Sing takes place there with revels to celebrate the beginning of fall. And volunteers have always clean up the area beforehand so that everybody has a good time.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
So this is a before picture. Explain what's happening here.
So in this photo, this is along Grinnell Boulevard, kind of right on the Cambridge-Watertown line. And to the left, there is invasive knotweed. This is a very tenacious invasive plant. Every year it grows very, very thick. It's so strong, it can go up through a pavement. It's actually very damaging to really anything from bridges to roads to people's backyards, and you see it everywhere. So this is a bike pathway where the knotweed had not been cut for years, and basically we brought out a lot of volunteers to cut back that invasive knotweed, and what actually happened was it grew onto the bike path. So with this, in this next photo that you'll see, there's a young volunteer where she's standing with that shovel was about 6 inches of earth, and on top of that earth was knotweed.
Wow.
So in this day of volunteering, we effectively almost doubled the size of the bike path just by doing maintenance that should have happened every year for the past 15, 20 years the bike path was made.
And there are, I recently saw a survey of bicyclists, and there were 2 surveys done, one at the end of the afternoon, people coming home from work, and one done on a weekend. And at both moments there were about 4,000 people. So it's a large number of people using the bicycle path. So to make it safe for them is very important, so there are no conflicts. Yes.
Definitely.
So let's move on to another project that you have pictures of here. Where is that, Logan?
This is a similar project to what we did, to what the first photos were, but there were so many areas along Greenough Boulevard in Cambridge Watertown where the knotweed had been growing that we spent many volunteer events last summer trying to tackle that problem. So this is another stretch, probably about a mile down the road, where there was a similar issue.
Yeah, another invader here.
Yes, it's bittersweet vine, and this is in front of Genzyme, and it's so thick and it's so strong it actually killed all the trees that it was growing up. So when we took down all this invasive bittersweet, what was left was just dead tree trunks, and we actually found one of the larger bittersweet vines. When we cut it, we counted all the rings, and it was over 20 years old. So it makes you realize that these invasives started growing 20 years ago, and if only we could keep on top of them, those trees might not have died there.
Speaking of trees, tree pruning is an important part of your work, and volunteers love it. And there's a lot of tree pruning happening also in the winter.
Definitely, yes. Most of the tree pruning we do is during the winter time. That's when we try to get up at some larger branches, at some branches that that trying to take off more of the tree cover, because in the winter the tree is dormant and it's much safer. This is a picture of this is along Memorial Drive in Cambridge near Hyatt, and this is a grove of cherry trees that a lot of this growth you see at the base of the trees is called sucker growth, and it's just branches that grow and they're really not doing anything for the tree. In fact, they're sapping the energy out of the larger, more mature branches. So those can be cut any time of year. We brought out probably about 50 to 60 MIT students to this grove of trees, and they really just did a wonderful job at clearing it out. It was very dense, not much air circulation, and just by picking up, by cleaning out a lot of that sucker growth, opening up some of the dead branches, getting them out of there, it's a much brighter and more healthier grove of trees.
Yeah. Now,